To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
So my dear children, in the earlier chapters, we discussed several things regarding the biosphere lesson. Over there, especially within the previous chapters, we discussed about several things that can change the lifestyle of human beings. Several reasons that could change the lifestyle of human beings. And my dear children, we discussed about the unfavorable effects or else some kinds of diseases which is getting caused because of the change of lifestyle of human beings. And my dear children, after that we discussed about how we can utilize our natural resources economically and sustainably, right? Over there we discussed about the sustainable agricultural uses and our traditional usage of traditional knowledge, and especially under that we discussed about the usage of irrigations technology, right? And now within this chapter, my dear children, we'll be discussing or we'll be continuing that lesson part somewhat further. So here now you are given with a special kind of a topic, my dear children. Let's see what is that. Conventional food patterns, right? Conventional food patterns. So like I was starting this lesson part, my dear children, especially when I was discussing about the sustainable development and environmental management, right? Over there we discussed about different kinds of things, and especially under the sustainable development we discussed about special kinds of things that we can follow in order to utilize our natural resources economically and sustainably, right? So my dear children, over there we discussed that if we can do such processes, then most of the times we can utilize these sources, energy sources, and as well as other resources in our environment. And my dear children, upon using these resources, right, upon using these resources, we will be able to live in cooperation with the environment. Okay, so when I was starting this lesson part, I told you that man has got a brilliant amount of knowledge and a good amount of technology right now, okay, up to now at the present. But however, by using that technology and knowledge, we should not go against the nature. Definitely we have to follow up with the nature, and we have to live collaterally with the nature, my dear children, not to go against it. Okay, so if you live it like that, then we will be able to minimize the bad effects given out because of the environment pollution. Now you know that environment pollution is mainly happening because we are going against the nature. Okay, so we can minimize those effects by doing or by living sustainably. Okay, so here within the conventional food patterns, my dear children, he also will be discussing about sustainable use of our food. Okay, so how we can use our food conventionally, right? So by that way, what are the benefits that we can obtain, and what are the advantages that we can receive from this? Okay, and my dear children, you know that conventional food patterns are also going to change our lifestyle too. Okay, that means, my dear children, I'm not telling that the usage of conventional food patterns is not going to end our busy lifestyle. But however, because of busy lifestyle, if there are any other bad effects or harmful effects given to our health, right, so that particular health conditions can be, or that particular bad health conditions can be minimized by conventional food patterns. Okay, So now let's head on to see and we'll observe what are these conventional food patterns and the benefits of doing such conventional food patterns. Okay, right. So food comprises a collection of nutrition, healthiness, culture, tradition, environment, creation, folktales, literature, technology, and etc. So when you take a food item, my dear children, now if you take Sri Lanka, now Sri Lanka is a country that highly dependent on rice. Okay, so our main dish is rice and curry. Okay, so when I'm going to mention about this rice and curry, I think, my dear children, now you guys which are at who are at home, now when I'm mentioning about this rice and curry, now your mindset is now for sure is imagining a certain bowl of a rice, okay, with your favorite dishes. So when I'm talking about food, my dear children, especially our unique foods, now when you take a certain country, especially for Sri Lanka, right, we know that our main dish is rice and curry. Okay, so when you take a certain country, so within a certain country, if you take any kind of a food item, my dear children, this food item has different kinds of varieties. And also the other thing is that food is going to comprise with, right, food is going to comprise with different kinds of or collection of nutrition. We already know that, right? Like there are different kinds of proteins, carbohydrates, then, my dear children, lipids and minerals. Like that way there are different kinds of nutritions. And also not only nutrition, my dear children, right? When we are talking about food, the healthiness is coming because of the food. And like I said, if you take Sri Lanka, our culture, right, our heritage and our culture, so with the food item, my dear children, our heritage and our culture is also getting represented. Now in our whole world, the main dish, rice and curry, main dish, can be observed only within Sri Lanka. So I mean, like within the other countries also we can observe this thing, but however, Sri Lankan rice and curry is somewhat special. Sri Lankan rice and curry is somewhat special. So it implements our heritage and also our culture, my dear children. So a food item is a wonderful thing to represent our heritage and our culture to the world. Okay, so not only that, there are other different facts as well, like the traditions. You know that from ancient times we use pol sambal as like a main dish with our rice and curry. So it is a tradition, my dear children. Actually this food item, the pol sambal thing, right, mainly can be observed within Sri Lanka, right? So we use some unique things when we are making this item, food item. We use we use, right, different kinds of ingredients in making, and our way of making pol sambal is somewhat unique than the others. Especially now, most of the times Sri Lanka make pol sambal, and also in India also we can observe this thing, right? But they use this thing, or they prepare this dish in some kind of a different way, unique to their own. But however, in Sri Lanka, my dear children, with our tradition, right, our dish is somewhat different than that. Okay, so it follows up with the tradition as well. Then what are the other facts? The environment. So you know that our environment facts are also very important for this when you are making food items, right? Then creations, different creations, special kinds of dishes. So you know that when you take a food item like which I took earlier, pol sambal, for Sri Lanka, it's very unique creation, right? Sri Lankan falsambal is available only in Sri Lanka. So this is very unique to our houses, right? This can be only observed within our houses, my dear children. If a certain person is living in Sri Lanka, then definitely for sure his heritage, his culture, his tradition can be implemented by this food item, right? Then about several folk tales. So I think when you are learning about Sinhala, right? Sinhala literature, there are several folk tales which are conjoined with food items, my dear children, right? Even since from our childhood, okay, we are going to listen different kinds of folk tales, different kinds of stories regarding food items, different food items. So there are even folk tales regarding the food items as well. Okay, for a certain example, can you remember during our childhood age, right? We had I think, like, also you guys have heard this story, right? So there is a certain area, right, within a certain environment. Okay, so a crane and a bat is living correlatively within a certain environment. Then bat is going to invite for the crane to have some kind of a dinner. Then crane is going to invite the bat for a dinner once more. So like that way, I think you have heard about this thing. And there is a saying as well, like a folk tale, right? So like that way, there are different kinds of stories regarding the food items as well. Okay, so eventually, you know, these folk tales are going to give out a certain important fact or important information for you guys. Okay, so however, my dear children, right, when you take food items in different countries, now we are talking about Sri Lanka now. So when you take Sri Lanka, folk tales are also being originated from different kinds of food items. Okay, then next one, literature. So like I said, it also relates with the literature as well. Okay, then my dear children, technology. So the technology is also getting involved with the food items, right? So some food items are also getting involved with the technology as well, right? So if you take cake, my dear children, right? When you take cake, so cake should be baked at a certain temperature with up to a certain time period. Otherwise, the recipe of the cake item will not be obtained properly. So that means, my dear children, it follows out some certain technology. Okay, the person who is making the cake, right? The chef who is making the cake, he or she should have the ability and the experience in order to get this done precisely. And my dear children, when taking that thing very too much precisely, he or she should have the technology needed or the knowledge needed to make it. Okay, if he is doing it for the first time, then for sure he or she will not be able to take it precisely at the correct time interval. Okay, and even though sometimes, my dear children, if he or she is going to take it out at the same time interval, the taste of the cake will not be perfect. It's because it takes somewhat several time period and also a greater experience in making these food items. So there is a technology of food items as well, right? Then like that way, we can observe different kinds of categories and different kinds of things which are going to involve with the food. Okay, so the traditional food patterns improve the quality of life of our people, but consumption of oily, starchy food, flavorings, and bad habits cause number of issues in public health. Now, my dear children, now I was talking about the traditional food items, no? So when I was talking about this, or when I was explaining about these food item processors, right? So I talk about a very simple traditional food item, which is pulsambal, right? See how much unique is that, right? Then when you take pulsambal, my dear children, it's a very unique and a traditional food item. It's not a junk food. I mean, it is pretty much nutritious, right? So, however, now these traditional food items, these natural food items, right, these historical food items, my dear children, have been replaced with several junk foods, right? So junk food means different kinds of things, or different kinds of, right, different kinds of flavors, additives, right, are being used to make junk food. Now most of the times people are not making these traditional food items, my dear children, because with the busy lifestyle that they have, they don't have enough time to go for such kind of activities, right? So most of the times they would tend to eat, right, from a different food store, okay, or else, my dear children, they would tend to eat food items which is being obtained from a food shop, but however most of the times they would go for like fried rice or any other junk food, right, not for traditional rice and curry. So this can be more often observed within cities, my dear children, not in rural areas like villages, but in city like areas more often we can observe this thing. Okay, now here uh, you know that these junk food items, they contains different kinds of, right, nutritions, and as well as, my dear children, okay, with the nutrition there are some certain bad effects or bad things as well, like the starchiness, right? So you know that this junk food contains too much polished items. Polished wheat flour or polished flour can be seen within these food items for sure. So my dear children, the starchy nature is very high within this junk food. So when you consume more and more, okay, when a person is going to consume more and more starchy food, then my dear children, there's a higher risk of getting diabetes. Okay. Then the other case, you know that when making this junk food, definitely too much oil is being used. You know, like when you're making when you're making a fried dish, definitely you have to use oil. Then sometimes fried things are again fried once more, right? When we are making some kind of like fried rice or something like that, then like uh, meat is being already fried down, so we are adding those meat to once again to the fried rice, so which contains again the oil. So therefore, my dear children, the oily nature contained within this junk food is also very high. And the other thing is that artificial flavorings. So you know that for sure different kinds of artificial flavors are being added, right? Different kinds of artificial flavors are being added in making these food items. Otherwise that unique taste will not come, right? That unique taste is obtained only from artificial flavorings. That is why even the people in nowadays are getting addicted to these types of foods, mainly because of the artificial flavors. Okay, those artificial flavors are, right, giving out a certain addiction. So that is why actually in normal days or in our present, people are tending to buy these things no matter what the cost. Okay, so my dear children, consumption of these things then, right, it's going to be pretty much dangerous. I mean, like, it's okay to use these things like once a week, okay, twice a week, then it's not going to be an issue. But however, with our busy lifestyle, my dear children, more often we are tending to use these things. I mean, like, most probably during the dinner time period, my dear children, definitely for sure within, like, if you take 10 houses, then within these 10 houses, my dear children, at least like 5 houses, for the dinner, they use junk food, because it is quite easy to get and time saving. And my dear children, it's going to save, and it's going to, like, with our busy lifestyle, it's going to suit very well. So therefore, more often, right, we use this junk food, artificial flavored food, right, different kinds of polished food items. We use these things within our dinner or within our night time period, my dear children, more often. Okay, so this is like a huge disadvantage for the health. Why is that? Because now too much oily foods and too much carbohydrate food items are getting accumulated within our body during the night time period. Now in the morning time period or during the daytime period, my dear children, actually, like, we are doing some kind of a work, no, right? However, during the night time, what we are going to do is we are going to eat and sleep. That's it, no. So it's going to be very risky for the person who is consuming these things, especially during the night time period. Okay, so this is, my dear, this condition, my dear children, is, right, going to be very defective, and it's going to be very dangerous situation for each and every person if that person is regularly consuming junk food, especially within night time period. Okay, so as you know, these food items contain different kinds of starchy food items, oily food items, sometimes different kinds of flavors, and also different kinds of acids are being added for these food items. When you take pickles, my dear children, you know that when making pickles, we add different kinds of acids like vinegar. So therefore, all of these things are consumption of these food items excessively are not good for our health. Okay, because of several reasons. So here it is given. So, but consumption of oily, starchy food, flavorings, and bad food habit cause number of issues in public health. So, not only consuming these food items, my dear children, but also, see this one. Bad food habits. So, what are bad food habits? So, bad food habits means, my dear children, in simple, now you know that we have to eat food when in the early morning, right? Because usually when we get up, my dear children, right, we are not having food for about 7 to 8 hours, because during the night time we sleep, no. So with that time we won't be able to consume food items, so our stomach is like getting starved for about 7 to 8 hours. So it's essential to eat food in our morning time period as soon as you get up, my dear children. I mean, like, I'm not going to say that on the bed you have to get your morning meal, right? Not like that. I mean, like, when you get up, then you take a wash, then you can have your morning tea. Then after that, my dear children, we have to take our food. Okay, we should not, right? We should definitely not, right, delay the morning meal. Why is that? Because, like I said, we are going to starve. From night time period to the morning, like around 7 to 8 hours, my dear children. So in that case, right, too much of acidity is getting collected within our stomach. So if you skip the morning meal, then it will terribly create a condition, right? Your acidity in the stomach will get increased and will definitely, right, you are going for the definitely this thing will definitely this condition will carry out finally up to gastritis. Okay, so bad food habits, that means especially skipping meals. Okay, and also my dear children, sometimes, right, some people, their habit is eating. I mean, like they're going to eat in the morning, right? They're going to take some kind of a food item as their main meal in the morning. Then at around 10 or 11 a.m. once again they're going to eat some kind of a thing, right? Some kind of a, like bun or any other thing, right? Then after like 1 or 2 p.m. they take their lunch. Then during the evening time period, once again they are going to eat some kind of a snack or something like that. So like I said, for some people their habit is eating, so that is also not good. That is also not a good or else a proper food habit. So what we should do is we should have to take our 3 meals at proper time intervals in proper proportions of nutritions. Okay, otherwise my dear children, what will happen? We will be facing terrible consequences in the future. Not right now, not in the present days, but in the future, my dear children. Right? These different kinds of diseases and other complications will occur within the near future, not present, if you don't follow good conventional food patterns. Right? So, my dear children, now let's see the last point. See, here is given. This condition has influenced the tendency of non-contagious diseases like high blood, high blood pressure, then high blood glucose level. Then within the blood, my dear children, right, or in our body, oil or else high lipid levels can also be observed. So we'll fill out that gap. Okay, so we can write diseases like high blood pressure, high blood pressure, and also my dear children, glucose levels. So definitely my dear children, what will happen if you don't follow, right, if you don't follow conventional food patterns, then you will increase the tendency of getting what? High blood pressure and glucose levels. Okay, high blood glucose levels and also high blood pressure. Especially, you know that high glucose levels can be observed when you consume too much starchy food. High blood pressure can be observed when you consume, right, too much oily food. It's because, my dear children, too much oily food, if you eat too much oily food, then oil will get deposited within the nerve system. You know that the thickness of the nerves are getting reduced over there, right? The lumen of the nerves is getting reduced because of the deposition of saturated fat, right? So this saturated fat is going to reduce the lumen like this. If you take a typical nerve, this is a typical nerve. So within the nerves, my dear children, like this way, the fat is getting deposited. So the ability of transfer in blood, right? You know that blood is going to come out from this valve, no? So the area which the blood can transport within the nerve is going to reduce. So it will increase the pressure created within the nerves, blood pressure. Okay, it's like keeping your finger at the end of a tube, right, which is being used to garden the which is being used to water your plants in the garden. Okay, when you keep the finger at the end of the tube at a high pressure, it is getting released. It's mainly because, my dear children, the area or the lumen, right, is getting reduced when you keep the finger at the last point of it. So in the same way, my dear children, for our nerves also, the same process happens because of deposition of this fat, right? So these fat layers are going to reduce the lumen of the nerves. So therefore, high blood pressure conditions can be observed. And you for sure you know that consumption of too much starchy food will definitely increase blood glucose levels, right? So diseases like high blood pressure and glucose levels can be observed, right? So these diseases are non-contagious diseases, my dear children. So, right? So we have already learned about these things in detail within our previous chapters. Okay. So conventional food habits are also very important, right, in order to maintain a healthy and a sustainable life. Okay. Right then, so here, important facts about the natural flavorings. Now we are going to discuss about natural flavorings. Now you know that if you take Sri Lanka has different kinds of flavorings, natural flavorings that we are going to add into our food items, especially for our rice and curries. So that is why actually especially the foreigners would love to come and eat our food items, because our food items are very unique, my dear children, right? We use pretty much different kinds of natural flavorings and also natural spices. So my dear children, these food items are much famous around each and every corner of the world because of our unique spices. I think, my dear children, you already know that for our spices, right? For Sri Lankan spices, right? Even some people came to Sri Lanka and conquered Sri Lanka because of the spices, right? Because the spices like cinnamon, right? Ceylon cinnamon is very unique. Okay, so these things are found in only limited number of countries. So my dear children, Sri Lanka is a country that use natural flavorings, right? Especially during the historical time period, or when you take ancient time period, our food items and our meals, my dear children, we had only natural flavorings, and these food items were brilliant during the past or ancient time period. Okay, that's why even the people have done marvelous technological things, right, during the ancient time period. Okay, so these natural flavorings and natural extracts are very important, right, because these things carry different kinds of properties and benefits to our health, and also it is going to promote the flavor, the unique taste of the food item as well. So now let's head on to see other important facts regarding the natural flavorings. Okay, so here is given the most reactive parts of a food. So when you take natural flavorings, my dear children, this is the most reactive part of a food. If you take a food item, then when you take the natural flavorings, we add natural flavorings because that is the most reactive part of the food item. Okay, it is the most reactive part. So over there we can observe, right, over there we can observe the highest reactive material or substance within the food item. Okay, then improve the color, taste, odor and appetite for food. So I told you about this thing, right, when I was starting about this topic. Especially these natural flavorings are going to promote the taste, color of the food, then odor, and also, my dear children, appetite of food, the food appetite. So that's why, like I said, Sri Lankan food items are much famous in all around the world, my dear children, because of the unique spices that we add to our food. Okay, so these will promote the odor, taste and the color of the food as well. So therefore, people would love to eat these things. Okay, people would love to eat these things, especially people who are coming from abroad. Okay, right. Then next one, contain bactericidal properties. Bactericidal properties. That means, my dear children, there are some certain different kinds of natural flavorings. When you take clove oil, then cinnamon oil, right? So these have the features of killing bacteria and other different kinds of pathogens contained within the food items. Okay, especially we add these things when preparing meat, my dear children. You know that meat, you take meat, my dear children. Now, animal flesh or meat is some kind of a substance which is somewhat hard to digest. And the other thing is that this is going to, these meat items, okay, flesh items are being covered with vast number of bacteria and other pathogenic microorganisms for sure, because these things are animals, no, right? These things are being obtained from animals. So therefore, varieties of bacteria and other kinds of germs and pathogenic organisms could be observed. So by adding these natural spices, natural flavorings like clove, cinnamon, right? We can and lemongrass. Most of the times we add lemongrass in making meat items, right? So by adding these things, my dear children, we can definitely destroy these harmful bacteria who is living within the surface of the flesh. Okay, so harmful and pathogenic microorganisms could also be destroyed by using these natural flavorings, by using these natural condiments and spices. Okay, right. So next one, minimize harmful effects caused by food. So the next one is, like I said, if you take a certain meat item, my dear children, flesh, so these things contain several or different kinds of pathogenic bacteria and viruses. So therefore, consumption of these kinds of food items, okay, consumption of these kinds of food items, right, should be done in a controlled and in a safe manner. Okay, so we have to cook these food items very well before we are going to consume it. And the other thing is that, my dear children, sometimes there is a possibility that these food items may get allergy for some people. But however, the tendency of getting allergies can be minimized by using good spices and natural flavorings. Okay, right then. Next one, has unique taste and quality which cannot be obtained by artificial flavorings. Now this is the most important one. Now when you take a packeted food item, my dear children, the taste which is obtained from a packeted food item is not getting we won't be able to obtain that taste from a naturally made food item. Actually, naturally made food items are somewhat even more, it is having even more flavor than the packeted food items, my dear children. Okay, it's mainly because these packeted food items are stored for a long time period and they consume too much of, right? I mean, like when you take these food items, the ingredients contained within these food items are kept for a longer time period. So their natural flavor is already missed out. Okay, or else their natural flavor is already being disappeared. However, my dear children, now these packeted food items are there because people would easily can prepare these things without any trouble. For a certain example, when you take a pack of noodles, now when you take a normal noodles, right, you have to prepare it by adding different kinds of vegetables. Then if you want to add meat or fish or any other, then you have to add those things. Then it will take some kind of a time, right? However, the taste is pretty much good, when you prepare it at your home. But if you take instant noodles, then what will happen? The instant noodles is like within 2 or 3 minutes you can prepare it at your home without any trouble. Only thing that you need is somewhat hot water, that's it. Okay, but however, when you compare the taste between those two, when you compare the taste between those two food items, the food item which was made by adding different kinds of other vegetables and meat and other kinds of things, right? That food item or the noodles which we prepared is tastier than that instant noodles. Okay, it's mainly because, my dear children, right, the things that we add as natural flavorings to the food item. Now, all of those things are artificially made, artificial flavors. Within the instant noodles, we can observe artificial flavors. All the things are artificial flavors, no? Right? So, however, if you take natural food items, right, these natural food items are going to promote what? They're going to promote the taste, quality, right, which cannot be obtained from artificial flavorings. Okay, so this is also an advantage of receiving or consuming natural flavorings and natural spices and other natural fruit flavorings, my dear children. Okay, so these are the benefits that we can obtain by consuming natural flavorings. Okay, natural flavorings. Right, my dear children. So these are the benefits of using natural flavorings and natural food items, my dear children. So it's better to use, always remember, it's better to use natural flavorings as much as possible. So there are different kinds of natural flavorings which we can add, right? So now let's see what are the natural flavorings, right? Natural flavorings that we can add for the food to enhance the taste, odor and the flavor, my dear children. Okay, see, the first one is given cinnamon. So like I said, can you remember when I was talking about the the taste and the bactericidal properties, I talk about the cinnamon, my dear children. So Ceylon cinnamon is very unique. Not in Sri Lanka, but my dear children, but however, when you take other countries also, Ceylon cinnamon is pretty much popular among all the countries. Okay, it's because it has several unique properties. Now let's see what are those unique properties then. Number one, it controls the blood glucose level. Okay, so it controls the blood glucose level. So it has the ability to control blood glucose level, my dear children. Okay, it has the ability to control blood glucose level. That means, my dear children, when you consume too much food item, too much starchy food items, if you can get some amount of cinnamon into your body, then it has the ability to support to control the glucose level in your blood. Okay, then the next one, reduce diseases caused by phlegm. So phlegm means, right, like our body is, especially our respiratory tract, is covered with mucus. Okay, so phlegm is like mucus related substance, okay, which is contained within our body. Okay, so this mucus is very important, right? It is very important, especially for the respiratory system, my dear children, right? I think I told you about the importance of mucus when I was discussing about the respiratory diseases, right? Over there, when we are discussing about the pulmonary diseases, I told you about this phlegm is very important for the body, especially mucus is very important for the respiratory tract, because this phlegm or else a mucus is going to purify air particles, right, before enter into the respiratory tract. So all the dust particles and all the other foreign particles are getting attached to the mucus very well, and only the air particles are getting inserted into the respiratory tract. And also, because of mucus is having a certain kind of certain amount of a wet nature, it will also humidify the air. Okay, so therefore there are several benefits in phlegm. But however, because of several reasons, my dear children, the phlegm in our body will get increased, right? Because of dust particles, different kinds of irritants and also pollutants, right, contained within the environment, and sometimes even because of bacteria and other some kind of pathogenic microorganisms also, this phlegm can increase within our body. So in that case, to reduce the level of phlegm, we can use what? Cinnamon. Okay, so it reduces the diseases caused by phlegm. Next one, has anti-cancer properties. Very important factor, my dear children. Okay, it has the anti-cancer properties. That means, my dear children, it supports our immunity system to destroy cancer cells. So it has the anti-cancer properties. It has the ability to destroy cancer cells contained within our body. So these are the benefits, special benefits of consuming what? Consuming cinnamon, my dear children, which is a very unique Sri Lankan natural flavoring. Okay. Then next one given, clove. So when we are discussing about cloves, my dear children, I think you have got a certain experience about cloves. When you are brushing teeth, especially, right, during the toothaches also, and especially when you are brushing teeth, most of the toothpaste items, I think you have heard that these toothpaste items are using clove oil, right, to promote the smell and the scent of the toothpaste. Okay. Then the other thing is that sometimes when you are having a certain kind of a toothache, your parents are being advised to you to keep some clove oil within the place where the tooth is going to ache, right? It's because that, my dear children, it has the ability of relieving the pain which is caused due to a certain swelling or certain injury. Okay, this clove. So like that way, there are different properties. Now let's see what are the things given in here. See, number one given, gives pleasant odor to mouth. So like I said, that is why, my dear children, actually more often we use these things, not actually we, multinational companies, right, when they are making their toothpaste items, more often these guys use clove oil, right, to make their toothpaste items, because clove oil can give a very pleasant odor to the mouth, right? Then next one, it relieves the pain. Like I said, can you remember? I told you, if we come across with a certain toothache, then more often parents and other elders will advise you guys to keep some amount of clove oil in the place where the tooth is going to ache, because it has the ability to relieve pain. Okay. Next one, destroy microorganisms. That means it has detergent properties. So when placing this clove oil within the place where the tooth is going to ache, my dear children, especially bacteria and other kinds of pathogenic microorganisms are also getting destroyed. So therefore, this clove also has detergent properties too. Okay. So these are the special benefits that we can observe by using clove. Then next one, pepper. Stimulate digestion of food. Pepper is going to stimulate the digestion of food. Now when you go for a certain hotel, or else when you go for a 3 or 5 star hotel, my dear children, they would give you a menu, right? Then within the menu, my dear children, the first and foremost dish is a soup. Definitely it's going to be a soup. Or else in a certain wedding ceremony, my dear children, the first and foremost dish which is being given for the visitors before the main meal, my dear children, is a soup. So this soup is containing pepper, plenty of pepper. Okay, that means this is somewhat spicy. Okay, this soup is somewhat spicy. However, people are tending to use it. So what's the purpose of giving out a soup that has good amount of pepper and to have a good amount of spiciness? Why? What is the reason for it? The reason is, my dear children, it stimulates the digestion of food. So when pepper is added to our digestive system, my dear children, earlier, it will stimulate the digestion process quite often. So therefore, when you are consuming the main meal, it will help to digest the main meal quickly when you eat or when you consume pepper. That is why actually before the main meal or before the main dish, my dear children, some amount of a soup bowl is given for you guys when you go for a certain wedding hall or else to 3 or 5-star hotel, right? So this is mainly can be observed within these places, my dear children. Okay, so this soup is also going to contain a plenty of, right, or good amount of pepper. So pepper will stimulate the digestion process. Okay, and also, my dear children, when stimulating the digestion process within the stomach, right, you will definitely get once again hungry. Okay, so to promote the process of digestion and to make your appetite, this pepper is widely being used within the soup. Okay, right. Then the next one, relieve abdominal disorders. So pepper also has the ability to relieve or to give out a certain relief from different kinds of abdominal disorders. Okay, so these are the main things or main benefits that we can obtain from natural flavorings. So especially these natural flavorings are, my dear children, these particular natural flavorings are very unique to Sri Lanka. Okay, right. Then so we have discussed about the conventional food patterns over here, my dear children. So these conventional food items and conventional food patterns are very important to maintain our healthy lifestyle. So if we keep our lifestyle healthy, that means, my dear children, the sustainable development is more. Why is that? Because if we are healthy, then we won't need any medicine. So therefore, the economical benefits are also there. Then not about economical benefits. When you take the other benefits like, artificial chemicals. So these medicines are made up with artificial chemicals, no? So the usage of the artificial chemicals are also getting reduced. So therefore, there are several advantages in consuming good food items in a proper manner. Okay, right then. So now let's head on to see what are the other contents within the lesson. So now, my dear children, we are going to discuss another different topic. Now earlier we discussed about the conventional food patterns. Now we are going to discuss another different topic. Here, my dear children, we are going to discuss about the medicine, right? About the medical technology. So usually in Sri Lanka, we use foreign medical practices, right? Foreign medical practices, my dear children. But however, other than that, there are other different kinds of medicinal practices as well. So here, instead of those chemically or artificially made, now you know that when you take our usual or Western, this is also referred to as Western medical science. So when you take Western medical science, my dear children, it's mainly focusing about the different chemical compounds, artificial chemical compounds. Okay, and these artificial medicinal compounds or chemical compounds are given for you guys or for the people, right, when they get different kinds of diseases. Then that's how they're going to cure it. So these chemical compounds are going to cure the symptom, right? But however, my dear children, this is Western medicinal practice. Now within this part, we are going to discuss about the traditional knowledge of medicinal practices. Now, when you take Sri Lanka and India, especially Sri Lanka and India, my dear children. So, when you take these countries, my dear children, these countries are somewhat, they have a similarly related heritage and a culture. So, therefore, the medicinal practices which carried out during the ancient time period are also pretty much unique to India and Sri Lanka both. Okay, so these medicinal practices only used natural parts only. Okay, they have used only natural parts. These medicinal practices, within these medicinal practices, my dear children, the people have only used, right, only used natural parts on natural parts. They have only used natural parts. That means roots, stems, flowers, then different kinds of fruits, seeds, and so on. All of these things are natural, not artificially made, not being chemically synthesized. Okay, so therefore these medicinal practices, okay, are pretty much environment friendly. And also the other thing is that this is also environment friendly as well as for the patient who is going to consume these things also. That means for the patient also, these things are friendly. I mean, like, they do not have any other side effects as they are natural. Okay, so other chemically made different medicine types, they have different side effects, my dear children. Now sometimes, for a certain example, okay, if a certain person is taking diabetes pills for longer time period, like for about 10 to 15 years, okay, then he or she has a greater probability, right, getting a renal failure, getting kidney disease, because the tablets which are being used, okay, are going to gradually decrease the kidney functions. So that is a terrible side effect. However, it is going to take much longer time, like 20 to 15 years. But eventually, right, if a certain person is taking medication for a very longer time period, then there is a possibility in kidney failure. Okay, so like that way, there are different kinds of side effects, okay, when using chemical medicinal substances. But however, in traditional medicinal substances, or in our traditional medicinal practices, my dear children, more often we use, instead of chemicals, we use different kinds of plants and plant parts. So therefore, these things are environment friendly, and they as well as healthy for the patient as well. Okay, right, now let's see. So this is just a brief given for you guys. So we'll be discussing about more things when you are going with the lesson part, my dear children. Now let's see local medicine science. We'll see about these details then. So this field consists of Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, and native medicinal fields, which has history of thousands of years. So like I said, my dear children, this field is going to go like thousands years back. Okay, this is a very historical and very ancient medical practice. Okay, it haven't originated recently. I mean, like, when you take the normal Western medicinal practices, this is even more older than Western medicinal practices. Okay, so therefore this is a very ancient one, my dear children. So the field consists of this local medicinal science, my dear children. This consists of three fields: Ayurveda, Siddha, and Unani. Okay, so Ayurveda is one of the important medical fields descendant from India. It is a perfect science with two traditions. So like I said, my dear children, Sri Lanka and India are somewhat closely related countries. If you go for the culture and traditions in Sri Lanka and India, both of these countries have, like, like similarly related culture and a tradition. Okay, so this Ayurveda medicinal practices mainly came from India. Okay, mainly came from India. So Ayurveda is one of the important medical fields descendant from India. So it is a perfect science with two traditions. So here it is mentioned in that it is a perfect science with two traditions. Number one given, Kaya Chikitsa, the clinical medicine, right? Kaya Chikitsa, the clinical medicine. Then number two, surgical science. So both the things can be observed here, right? Clinical medicine and also surgical science as well. So it is a wonderful practice, okay? Traditional ancient practice that carries two different fields, okay? Two different fields. Here we are talking about Ayurveda medicine practices, okay? So Ayurveda medicine practice contains two different fields, my dear children. So here number one is clinical medicine, which is called as the Kaya Chikitsa, and the second one is the surgical science. According to Ayurveda, there are three types of reactions that takes place in human body. So according to this Ayurveda, my dear children, right, Ayurveda medicine practice, there are three types of, right, there are three types of reactions that is going to take within our body mainly. There are three types of reactions which is going to happen in our body. This is according to the Ayurvedic medicine field, okay? So these three factors are Va, Pith and Kapha, right? Va, Pith and Kapha. So these are the three main reactions that is going to create or that is going to make within our body, okay? So Va, Pith and Kapha. So all the chemical reactions are related to these three categories, my dear children. Ayurvedic medicine implements that all chemical reactions which is going to happen within our body are mainly related with these three substances, okay, right? So Va means, my dear children, air. That means all the air particles contained in your body, especially this is reflecting about the respiratory system contained within our body. And also you know that through our blood also different kinds of gases runs like carbon dioxide and oxygen. So our body is composed of Va, which is air. Then next one given, Pith, bile. So bile is a pigment which is getting produced by our liver that facilitate the digestion of lipid compounds. So Pith is a special name given for the bile in here, okay? So bile is also a substance contained within our body that supports different kinds of chemical reactions. So the second main component is bile, which is referred to as the pith, okay? Then next one, kapha. Kapha means, my dear children, phlegm or mucus. Phlegm or mucus, right? So you know that our respiratory system, when you take the respiratory system, right? Our respiratory system, my dear children, like I said in the previous examples, right? Can you remember? Over there we discussed that our respiratory system contains plenty of phlegm or mucus. So it is very important for the respiratory system as well. So these are the three main substances which are getting controlled by Ayurvedic medicine. So Ayurvedic medicine suggests that because of the imbalance of these three substances, different kinds of diseases are getting created within our body. So the treatment is done to control these factors. What factors? Va, Pith and Kapha. So by controlling these factors, Ayurvedic medicine states that we can control the diseases which is going to occur within our body. Okay, right. So here it is given, imbalance of these three factors cause diseases according to Ayurveda. So like I said, my dear children, imbalances of these three factors or these components within our body is going to create different kinds of diseases. Okay, so these diseases can be controlled by controlling these factors, right, at the optimum levels. So this is how, my dear children, okay, this is how, my dear children, the factors are being controlled within the Ayurvedic medicine. Okay, actually factors means the diseases are being controlled. Here actually disease controlling means, in the sense in here, they're going to control by giving out certain medicinal extracts, especially plant-based medicinal extracts. These Ayurvedic medicine is going to control the three main factors or the three main reactions which is going to occur within our body: Va, Pitta and Kapha. By that way, diseases are being controlled, right? So, Ayurveda field of medicine use plants or parts of plants to treat patients. So, like I said, Ayurveda medicine practice is very important. Why is that? Because this is sustainable and also environment friendly. And for the patient also, my dear children, there are no any side effects as well. It's mainly because these things are going to use plants and plant parts only. There are no any chemical substances. Okay. So treatments are given in three ways. So now treatments in Ayurvedic medicine, the treatments are given according to three different methods. Number one, by medicine. Through medicine, right? That means different kinds of, like food, different kinds of medicinal extracts, and then there are different kinds of medicines prepared from plant items are given as medicine. Number one. Then sometimes different food items are being given as the treatments. Let's imagine that a certain person is suffering with diabetes. Then the Ayurvedic doctor is advising this patient to not to eat polished food, eat red rice as much often, then consume very less amount of sugar. Like that way, instructions are given for the person, for the patient, by controlling food items or by giving out certain food items that can control the disease condition. Okay, so the treatment is given from food as well, right? Then number three, from exercises. So this is very often thing, right? Even in Western medicinal practices also, my dear children, more often doctors are being asked to do physical exercises, right, for the patients, right? It's mainly because exercises are very important to keep our life or to keep our body healthy. Okay, right? So by using three ways in Ayurvedic medicine field, by using three ways, the treatments are given. So what are the three ways? Medicine, by food, and by exercises. Okay, right then. So in Ayurvedic medicine, treatments are done to the cause or root to the disease. Body activity is not controlled artificially by giving medicines or drugs externally. Therefore, side effects are not resulted. So this is the very important fact, right? The most important fact about Ayurvedic medicine, my dear children. Like I said, this medicinal practice not going to create or not going to make any chemical substance. There are no any artificial made substances here. All the things are natural. So therefore, side effects given to the patient is very less or none. Okay. However, okay, when you take chemically made or artificially made medicinal practices, so in here, there can be several side effects, right? When the patient is going to consume these things for a prolonged time period, as these things are chemically synthetically made artificial substances. Okay. However, in Ayurvedic medicine, my dear children, we won't be able to observe such kind of a effect. That is the first advantage of using Ayurvedic medicine. And the other, within the Western medicinal practices, my dear children, okay, now let's imagine I'm having a common cold and now I'm having fever. So when I'm going to go for a doctor, definitely I'll be given with what? I'll be given with some kind of a painkiller to kill the pain given out by the fever. Okay, actually this is how the thing is going to work within the Western medicine practices. It's mainly for the symptom the treatment is given. So in Western medicinal practices, my dear children, now when you take this is only for certain diseases, right? Not for everyone, not for each and every disease, for certain diseases, for simple diseases. Okay, so for simple diseases, treatments are given for the symptoms, so that it will give out a certain time period to fight against the bacteria or else the other pathogenic microorganism who is living within the body of the patient. So immunity system can fight and destroy it. But however, while doing that, so there are certain other symptoms which are coming now. So in order to mitigate those symptoms, externally some kinds of medicines are given. Okay, but however, Ayurvedic medicine is not like that. In Ayurvedic medicine, my dear children, what will happen? Now, if I'm having common cold and fever, then my dear children, Ayurvedic medicine will be focusing to not to mitigate the fever condition, but to mitigate the phlegm contained within my body, because phlegm is the main reason of creation of common cold. Then because of the common cold, I get fever. So therefore, the root of the disease is excess phlegm. So in Ayurvedic medicine, my dear children, they are going to reduce the phlegm level in our body, in my body. By that way, they are treating into the root of the disease, not to the symptom. So therefore, usually in Ayurvedic medicine, my dear children, the disease condition is completely getting cured within certain time period. Okay, completely getting cured. But however, in Western, it will take somewhat more longer time period. Why is that? Because we are treating for the symptoms now, not to the root of the disease now. Okay, so therefore, Ayurvedic medicine is somewhat advanced in these cases. But this is only applicable in some certain cases only, my dear children, not for each and every. Okay, so this is the specialty in Ayurvedic medicine then, right? So next one, food is also a significant factor to cure diseases. It should be consumed to balance Va, Pitta and Kapha, the three factors. Then the other thing is the food items that we consume, my dear children. So the food items that we consume should also be good to our health, and the other thing is that they should also control the factors Va, Pitta and Kapha in our body. Okay, so with the treatments, my dear children, we should also carry out proper food habits in maintaining these three factors, especially in Ayurvedic medicine. Okay, then my dear children, its main target is not only curing diseases but also maintaining physically and mentally fit, healthy life. So main target of using Ayurvedic medicine is not to control diseases, but also, my dear children, give out a wonderful physically and mentally fit, healthy life. Okay, so these are the special conditions or special facts that we can identify within the Ayurvedic medicine, my dear children. So I hope that you got the idea very well. Okay, right. So like I said, my dear children, if we make a comparison between Western medicinal practices and Ayurvedic medicinal practices, Ayurvedic medicine practice is sustainable and also it is environment friendly. And my dear children, the other thing is that the Ayurvedic medicinal practices is going to manage the environment, right? And manage the environment sustainably, right? So therefore, it's very important. It is a very important fact, or it is a very important medicinal practice, right? Ayurvedic medicine. So always this Ayurvedic medicine is going to follow up the conditions accordance to the nature, right? Okay then. So my dear children, we have discussed several things regarding the Ayurvedic medicine practices within this chapter. Okay, right. So from this one, I'm going to from this part, I'm going to finish up the chapter, my dear children. In our next chapter, we'll discuss some other details related to the lesson.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.